Welcome to the Morning Star Podcast, where we engage in meaningful conversations that display God's handiwork and encourage you to live a Jesus-first life. This episode highlights an important ministry and their heart for serving others. So let's learn more about what's happening in the life of your church community.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Morning Star Podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Mayhew, and today with me, I get the privilege of having Brooke Goldsby and Tiffany Shomis, and we're talking about Salem Angels. Brooke, Tiffany, how are you guys doing?
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Doing great.
Awesome. How long y'all been at Morning Star, real quick?
I think not quite a year.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Yes. And I've been since about 8th grade, so 2006. So
nice.
Do the math.
Nice.
Yeah,
I don't want to do the math.
Yeah.
But hey, well, thank you both so much for coming on. And Brooke, first off, what are your all's roles with Salem Angels?
I am executive director of
Okay.
Salem Angels. Yep.
Nice.
And I have a group of people here at Morning Star that come alongside a family that fosters kids and helps them by being a love box group. And yeah, there's not really leaders in the group. We all have a pretty even role, but
Awesome. Okay. And what is Salem Angels? I've seen it in the slides. I know I've seen the giving tree in the lobby. And I know we do a lot of them with the lights, but I'm assuming you're not just bunch of people who dress up in angel costumes and walk around downtown, right?
Not so much.
Okay.
You won't see me with wings or a halo.
yeah.
No, we are wrapping support around the children, youth, and families in the foster community.
Okay.
We do that with intentional giving, relationship building, and mentorship. And the two programs, one that Tiffany and her group are part of, is called the Love Box program.
Okay.
And that's simply matching a group of awesome volunteers with a family that is bringing children into their homes and sometimes providing tangible gifts. Sometimes it's literally a box of love. Other times it's just providing for them with a meal or driving kids to lessons, different events. It could be yard work. A lot of our families don't have the time because their focus is fostering so much. And so they have so little time on their hands sometimes, so they could have a work day in the Love Box group. All the volunteers could come. And then the other program is just Dare to Dream, and that's just mentorship. That's a one-on-one.
Got it. So you have the, I don't know what the name of it, the partnership program where you're kind of coming alongside other families and basically serving an extended family sort of function. Is that kind of the right vibe?
Yeah, I mean, I can talk about our specific, how that is. We have a really close relationship with our family. So we even have a group text messaging thread that they communicate with one person that communicates with our group, just ways that they need prayer. So really just coming alongside them as a resource and just showing them Jesus and whatever they need. And oftentimes, like Brooke was saying, it's providing some sort of respite, if that's watching the kids so they can go on a date night or we do a lot of rides. We have a suite. I'll shout out Terry and Janie Scheich. They I think they were shouted out at a different podcast, but they take them to to and from lessons all the time or school or whatever it is that is helpful to them. It's a big family of 6 kids. And so while the mom is taking one kid from one place to another, she can't often be at the other kid's place. So we'll help them with rides and whatnot. So
that's cool. That's cool. How do you choose the families to be involved with?
Yeah. So a family that wants the support will come to us and refer themselves. They may be referred from a caseworker, or they could have heard of us and referred themselves. And then we hopefully, as we have recruiting volunteers, have kind of a pipeline, if you will, of volunteers that are waiting to support a family. And if it's the right match, it'll be a quick match. But if a group isn't able to provide respite care, but this family really needs respite care, then we won't match them because that won't be successful.
Interesting. What is respite care?
Respite care would be overnights.
Oh,
you can do babysitting and that's all fine, but respite care is going to be a weekend and overnight option. And so if the group wants to do some overnights, then absolutely. But if they don't need that as much, then, and they just need some help with driving or both parents work and some meals would be great, then we're going to hear from what the family needs. And then we're going to look at the group volunteers that we have and make sure they match, even down to geographically.
Oh, okay.
We want the match to be successful in every single way. If a family lives in Dallas and a family lives in Turner, that's not super convenient. And some people are totally willing to make the drive, but it is much harder if a family just needs a meal. That's hard to coordinate, or just grabbing the kids and taking them to the park or something like that. It's not as feasible. Yeah. Definitely can happen, but not as feasible. But we just want it to be really successful in every way for it to be a good match. And the point is relationship building, not just, okay, you need some stuff, here you go. That box is definitely a caveat to building that relationship, because sometimes when you fill something up and the kids are the ones that are so excited, oh my goodness, who doesn't love a box of items to open? And everybody can put notes inside the box. What's really fun is when families have younger kids and they can color on the box, really involve the whole family ministering to this fostering family. That's what I love, is
we did that
getting
with
your kids
our
involved.
First box. We had the physical actual box, and we had my sister and brother-in-law have 2 kids. So they drew on the box and wrote like sweet notes to the kiddos. But now our boxes are just kind of naturally like baskets or certain kinds of things that we put together each month. And each like person or couple in our group, I think we have like 6 or 8 people in our like volunteer group. We've done a whole year of like signing up for the month. So, like you're kind of like the leader for that month to collaborate. I don't think I told you that yet, but to collaborate. And so we just know ahead of time we can be thinking about that month. So like this month it's like Christmas. So we kind of made like a Christmas themed box. We've done certain things for them on top of like the rides, or the other really like great thing that's been helpful for our family is when the mom, she'll like go on little weekend trips or something. If she's out of town, we'll deliver meals the day she's out of town. That's really helpful. Because the dad doesn't like to cook very much. And so we'll like bring them meals, and they said that was really helpful for
That's fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So there's the mentoring part, which I want to get back to, but there's also this love community love box program. It's what's called the love box program. A lot more than just a box,
right?
But maybe a community box,
Yeah.
But why? So like, why focus on the community building and the relationship building with the love box program? Like, what's the goal?
To change statistics is a huge piece of it. There are so many families that want to foster. But then when you get into it, it is beautiful, but it is very hard. We are all not called to foster. It is a calling. And then even when we accept that call, sometimes there's the lack of support. It can be lonely. You're so putting yourself towards things that these kids come from trauma, no fault of their own, that you're then kind of trying to deal with other things that are going on in their little brains, and depending the age of the child and just all these things, that then if we can support this family and help them keep their doors open, help them be able to keep saying yes, then we're changing the statistic of children being moved so many times. Statistically, nationally, it's 7 times every 2 years.
Wow.
Yes. And that has to change. That's why and then every time a child moves, if they move to a new school and everything, then they're 6 months academically behind.
Yeah.
Because of all the things that they're having to go through again. New teachers, new friends, a new home, all these pieces that are adding to that. It can be trauma again. And so if we can support this family and say, we are here to walk alongside you to the degree that you need us to keep your doors open. We are here. And so thus the relationship. There's many things, like you can give people things all day long.
Yeah.
But that's not going to, be the same as you keep building that relationship when you're a text away for when one of them is having a hard day.
Yeah.
That they can know that they can reach out. We had a great support system. We had family in town when we began fostering, but it still, when there's a couple people versus when there's groups of like 6 to 10, like Tiffany's, it is so amazing. And I love how you guys have divided it up that you know which month you're on. That's even greater. Like that is just using everybody in their fullest capacity, no burnout. And so it's the relationship that we want to build because that's what's going to keep going on forever. And that's the key. That is what she's my board president and myself, we both fostered and then adopted. And what we saw was a huge need for helping families was consistent, keep showing up. I'm here. And that's what really changes relationally to change that. And then if we can, well, I know we'll get to the mentoring, but if we can catch these youth earlier, we're also going to change statistics of homelessness and then prison, because 50% of the homeless and prison population have been in foster care. Because as they're aging out, where do they have to go? If they haven't had people alongside them to know what those next steps are, to go vocational, 4-year, all the things that the options that every child has, that they're just, maybe they do know of them, but they don't feel worthy of it. They don't know what they're going to do to provide for themselves. And so if we can come alongside them in that way too and mentor them, they'll know those next steps. They'll feel seen and heard. And they will know that there's other choices than heading to the streets and then getting in trouble and ending up in really bad, extreme.
Those are some crazy statistics.
Yeah.
7 times in 2 years?
Yes.
Jeez. Please.
Yes.
So why? So I kind of see it as like a two-pronged approach almost. You got the like, let's support the family and then let's support the child through the mentoring and through the community. And then the goal together is to basically just break out of that maybe pattern of just not being able to, launch and lead a normal life because they don't have the support unit that those who are not in the foster system normally have. So you talked about you yourself fostered to adopt, and what opened your eyes throughout that process? What was that like for you?
We had been, we had our 3 older, and they were starting to leave the nest. And so I was really starting to get out into the community and just knew I wanted to do more and volunteer more. And so I ended up at the program that our little guy was part of. And so then as we brought him in, we weren't heading to adoption. We were just going to fill the gap. We were older. Our youngest was 16. We were almost empty nesters. And we're really seeking God. As then when we did bring him in, and 2 years later when he was to adoption status, and knowing the care that these kids need and knowing that statistic of a child moving so often. And even if we could have handpicked who Dre would be adopted by, he just still had to go through learning new people, learning new rules, learning all the systems, family dynamics, all of these things for him to find peace and get settled again. And so we just knew God was saying, or you can make him your own. And so we did. And it's been, like I said, it's both and. It's beautiful and it is hard. And it changes you for sure. Makes you question your parenting styles, your compassion levels, all these things that are so much for what God is wanting to do in you. It's not always just about this child. It's about you too, and what God is choosing to do in you and a group. And I mean, it just keeps moving out when you build those relationships. So that's how it got to us, for us, that we were just going to step in and foster a little bit. And then we knew we were being called to that. So then after we adopted, we knew there was such a need in the foster community for support. And so that's when my now board president and I started really just seeking what was already out there. And that's when we found National Angels. It's a national organization.
Oh, okay.
So we were in Seattle and we saw Seattle Angels.
Okay.
And
that's cool.
Here we are.
That's cool. Do you get a lot of support from the national organization?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That is what is so amazing, is that my friend, my board gal, she and I were starting to say, what did we need? What are families needing? And we were starting to be like, let's do this. And kind of a grassroots level of, okay, they need time, they need rides, they need meals. And we were kind of starting to try to organize that. And then when we saw this in Seattle, I'm like, oh, it exists. Like everything we were saying. And Addie is my president. She was like dreaming this up. And I'm like, it exists already. We don't have to do the ground roots. And so we're our own 501c3, but we are backed by them. Everything is done by them. We didn't have to come up with logos and all of those things. A website. They built our website. Everything to run the organization is done by National, and there are constant support. So we're receiving training from them, which we then give to all of our volunteers. And it's an amazing organization. They're getting it dialed in. It's still technically a pretty young organization. Started in 2010, and one of the first chapters being opened in 2013. So we're still relatively young and making improvements, but I thought it was amazing 3 years ago when we started, and now I'm 3 years in, and they're continuing to do just amazing things to keep making it better and better.
Nice. It's cool. Like I was talking about this even earlier on a previous episode. We talked about Save One, which is a post-abortion ministry, and they're also like a chapter, like a national organization. Right. And it's just, it feels like, to me at least, there's this movement around the globe to just address like the hurting needs of our community, and we're doing it in new creative ways through like creating like 8 chapters of angels who are just like going in and being family where people might not have enough support in the first place. Right. So circling back to volunteers, Tiffany, you volunteer with the Love Box program. Do you do the Dare to Dream stuff, or just kind of the Love Box?
Just the Love Box.
Okay. Why?
Kind of go quick backstory, short version. But like a few years ago, separately, like Wes, my husband, and I were praying, and God put like foster care on our hearts. And we were just like, we don't know if that means like you want us to foster, if that means, is there somewhere we can volunteer? So our first like experience with foster community, there's a camp called Royal Family Kids Camp, which is a separate thing. But I was a camp nurse, and Wes was like a one-to-one mentor for a kiddo there. Which was a great experience. And then I, still have been praying throughout those years. And then when on the stage, I think it was Jen that announced that we were going to be really partnering with this organization, Salem Angels. And I was like, immediately like, yes, I want to get involved. Like, this is amazing. I had such a great experience with Royal Family Kids, and knowing that the Lord has that still on our heart, called us that way. And also, like throughout this whole experience with foster care / adoption, God has put like scripture on my heart with Galatians 5:13. I don't have it memorized, but I wrote down, but it's, for you are called to freedom, brothers. Only do not use your freedom as an opportunity for the flesh, but through love, serve one another. For the whole law is fulfilled in one word: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. So that was just like, duh, we need to like love others. How can we do that? And what a great experience. My sister was also fostering my brother-in-law's like cousin. So that was kind of cool to be able to kind of connect her. And she was a part of being in a Love Box group, a separate group. But So that's why I volunteer. It's been a great experience. And like I said, we're a bigger group. So that makes it really nice to be able to have that much resources because we have a bigger family that we support. But.
Right. And then Tiffany's been so good. Like she's taken it to her work life too. And they've come alongside, her nursing team has come alongside us and did a couple different events and helping. We have a great relationship with our local DHS and we do fun little spoil them. We call it treat yourself. And so we make goodies. And so her team has made brownies and stuff like that. So she has such a heart for it and just keeps spreading the word.
Yeah, we do like a Nurses Give Back week in, I think it's around March, but we partner with a nonprofit and there's like an already like formed list of things, but Salem Angels wasn't on there, but I came to my team and I was like, I'm really passionate about Salem Angels. So we went through that whole process of like getting them approved to be like an approved nonprofit and reach out to Brooke and we were able to help bake and the foundation. Foundation gave and money since then 2 other nursing units have given. Good. So it just like that's the ripple effect. Yeah. And you want to think as created by who we know we are created by, we desire to have relationship and he created us to serve. And so, yes, we often need the reminders to serve and to be out there. But I just love Tiffany's heart to just keep building that and speaking it out wherever she is. And that just keeps growing and keeps spreading awareness to be able to support these families and kids.
That's great. That's great. So we talked about Love Box, Dare to Dream a little bit, the mentoring program. What is that like? What does that look like?
So that's just a one-on-one.
Okay.
And so back up a little bit, the Love Box program, we ask for at least once a month connection. With the mentoring, we ask for 2 times since that's just one-on-one and really keen in with these youth and spending time. Relationship takes time, especially for our youth. And we have, again, training. And we have 10 things that we want them to, it's not that you have to go, okay, I'm doing that, but knowing those 10 items that as you spend time with your youth, you're kind of keeping those in mind. And especially for the 15 and 16-year-olds or even after that don't have their license or need their permit, you can focus on that. If they're needing to work, you can work on a resume. Ones that are in high school, talk about the next steps and have a plan. Help them with a plan to know, should you do vocational? You can go to 4-year school. A lot of kids, if you go to a state college, these kids, they can full ride scholarship. And they don't know that. So they have to learn these things. And so talk about that or financing, help them learn finances and do a Dave Ramsey, or whatever financial thing that might be, or just learning how to just run a checkbook. Like it's a lot of them don't have even that capacity. And then work. And there's different programs in town that they could be part of. I don't know if you guys know about Ixbox, Isaacs and Ixbox. They have a great program that they'll give a working program to youth and just incredible resources that are out there that they don't know about. And so, and then by spending time building the relationship, they're feeling seen and heard. And just because what they've experienced doesn't mean they don't have dreams and hopes. And these mentors, we want them to understand, to teach them and know what those cares are and be that person that they can come to. A lot of these kids, there's so many meetings and so many agendas. And so here's one more adult that has an agenda. And we can say, it's your agenda. What do you need today? I am here for you. And so to keep building that up in them and make sure they know the next great steps that life can have, that they should have every single same opportunity that any child has.
That's like, even saying like you're there for them, like what do you need? That seems like a really powerful message, especially to like children who, like, I even as like a child who was not in the foster program, like that would have been like a cool message to me.
Right.
But then like a child who is, having to float 7 times a year to different families.
Right.
It's just, so that's probably do like children tend to respond to the mentoring program pretty well, or is it kind of like hit and miss, or?
It's being good.
Okay.
We have 8 that we have in our program so far, and it's been super good. And it's key in knowing those volunteers that can take that time and it doesn't have to be anything big and amazing and crazy, like just time. They just want time. And time is what these kids need to build that. They don't have a lot of trust in people. They do get moved, and somebody doesn't want to spend the time. And so there was one of our first ones, this foster mom convinced the youth, like, let's try this mentoring program. Why does an adult want to hang out with me? And he was like, fine, I'll do it. But I'm not sure why. Why would he want to spend time with me? That's their thought. They don't feel worthy. And she's like, because he thinks you're kind of a cool kid. And, to start hearing that and knowing that. And so sure enough, he was totally resistant. And by like just a couple days later, they'd already gone to dinner, and they weren't back for hours. So the youth was like, I'll go to dinner. An hour. 3 hours later, they were back. And then like that weekend, the mentor took him to a basketball game in Portland.
Oh, fun.
And they work out almost daily together.
Oh, cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, that mentor is spending time and making that youth feel so heard and seen and wants to be with. And
will him and other mentors like follow the youth from family to family if they get transferred?
Yes, okay. That is the idea, is to follow the youth. And so, or any child, if a child does get moved, then the Love Box group and new family or the biological family, whatever the situation is of why the child is being moved, if they can continue that, and everybody, all parties are saying yes to that, then we do make that transition, especially if they're being reunified. And that is the hope and goal for the parents that are wanting to make those changes to get out of the cycle of why their children were in the foster system. They probably have some things they're needing to work on as well. And so what a great time for this Love Box group to meet with the biological family who's needing some healthy relationships and families to look at and see how parenting is in a healthy manner. And so that's amazing if we can then support the biological family as they reunify and are trying to make some changes in their parenting skills and those next steps. And side note too, is that when you have a Love Box or mentoring, we ask for a year's commitment, barring nobody moving or anything, or like the reunification if somebody's not willing or whatever the situation is. We do ask for a year, but they're being extended. Have you hit your?
Oh, it's been over a year.
That's what I thought. I was like, you are either super close or have.
I think it's been
and
over.
So then you can just keep going. I mean, that's our hope. Like after a year, you don't want to say no, and you keep wanting to support this family. Because a lot of the families, even if children are unified or moved to another family, then they're still typically fostering. And so keep supporting them and everybody in the party, all that are involved.
That's cool.
So and then the mentoring can be the same. Ask for a year, and then if it can continue, great. And that's what we're seeing is that people keep signing up for another year.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you all have any like cool stories that you can share? Maybe anonymous is needed, but of like how this has impacted families and children in the foster program.
Yeah. Do you want to share anything from?
Yeah. Well, one that like recently happened that was just pretty cool. Like I said, the mom often like reaches out for prayer requests. And then the person that hears from her like sends it to our group. But there was like an injury of the kiddo, complete accident injury of the kiddo that was in the foster care system. They have 2 biological kids, 2 kids that they had fostered and adopted when we were paired with them already. And then 1 kiddo that they are fostering currently. But there was a complete accident. But one of our, I'm a nurse, and then there's Janie Shikes, also a nurse. So we were kind of able to like give them some like solid advice. So that was just like a cool opportunity because it was like in the moment that it happened, and she was very, frantic. Like, what do I do? Do I need to go to like the urgent care at the hospital, or like, what can I do? And so I think I want to say Janie actually went over there and herself like evaluated, because she used to work in pediatrics when she was a nurse. So that was just like a really cool, like something recently that had happened, and how God just like orchestrated that so naturally. And she was able to like calm the mom down and be there for the kiddo, which that was really cool. And then I just think like power of prayer has been really cool. Just being able to like hear a prayer request and like for them to trust us with being so transparent and being able to pray and know that there's like this large group of people that are praying for them. I know that's made a huge difference in both our lives and their lives. I think that is the main thing that has really stuck out in the last year or so. And then it's, always just fun to like go over there and like deliver the love box when you're like the leader, and being there and just, again, spending time in that relationship, and loving and serving one another and having those relationships that God has made us for. Has been really cool, and just like show them Jesus in that way. And they often bless me. I've, even met separately with the mom just to hear like more about her story, and how she got into foster care. Just because that's something in the future that we might consider Wes and I, but that's been really cool. So she's really blessed me in that way too.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. I'll share a story too, but I just want to touch on something you just said too, on when people are interested in fostering, you can't really just test it out.
That's true.
That's right.
And, you kind of need to commit. And so DHS was the ones that said to us, they're like, you guys, people are like, they know that, but they're like, is there any way to just try it for a little while? And they're like, yeah, sorry, no. But then they were like, a family could potentially kind of try out, because if you get matched with a family and you do provide respite, then you are bringing children into your home for overnights or a weekend or an extended period of time. If the family goes on vacation or something like that, then you really can start knowing, I think we could do this, because you're literally bringing the children into your home to have a longer extended period of time. And if you do that enough, you can kind of start seeing, okay, you want to do this? It's spouses. You want to do this? I think we can do it, as they spend time with the family that they're supporting from their love box. And so then after the year, just depending how long it would go, they could then say, we're ready to foster, because they've had this experience of supporting a family. So, but then just on other stories, just the families that are coming to us, just saying, wish we'd had this so long ago. This is providing that support. Your friendships can change when you foster. Like, you have lots of children sometimes, and people don't want as many children coming over, or it's just a different world. I just want to protect on, not saying too much negativity, but it can change. And so we had one family that said our friendships had changed. And so now this family that is walking alongside us gets it. And they're not judging the behaviors of my children. They're just loving them and taking them and loving us, loving them. And we don't feel judged because everybody knows what they're saying yes to, And so that's been huge for a couple families. And then just this other family, they're lifelong friends now.
Mm-hmm.
They've been going, they're on their second year of being matched. And they are just like, we will never not be friends. The moms are best of friends.
Mm-hmm.
The Love Box group has older children, and the fostering family has littles. And so these older kids just love these littles. Mm-hmm. So it's the perfect, sometimes it's great to have same age, but then there's sometimes that's really awesome because these older kids are loving. There's enough age gap
up to them. As
right.
Yeah.
So it's an incredible match. And so there's so many good stories. There are really good ones.
You're like 5, like every 16-year-old to you is like wearing a cape and like a Superman emblem, right? You're like, oh, they're so cool. They're playing, Hot Wheels or whatever with me.
Right.
But no, that's great. That's great.
It was really neat too. I kind of want to mention like Brooke and the team have put on like community events too. So I think in the summertime we did like a
summer bash.
The summer bash. And it was like an outdoor, there was like games and it was really fun. So like everyone that was involved with Salem Angels, the families would come. And so we got to hear like a little bit of people's stories if you were like talking with other people. So that was just cool to see how it reached into the community as well. And I know there's like the parents' night out. That we have here. Is that morning?
Yeah. We do a couple here, and Our Savior's Lutheran is going to do one this year too.
Oh, good.
So we're building the community for everybody to get to take part. So those have been really fun. And those are just then uniting the families, that they're all coming together at the same place, and other kids that are being fostered as well. They're like, oh, you're here too. Like it's building community within their community.
That's cool. That's cool. So I want to touch back on the Morning Star Salem Angels and what that looks like. But before we get there, what has volunteering or working with Salem Angels, what has that taught you about God? It's like, I'm like, wow, this sounds like I can picture Jesus doing this kind of stuff. So I imagine there's got to be something you've all learned.
For sure. Like what not? It's more like how many things are I've been a believer all my life and have had a very strong, I have high faith. My hope in Christ has always been strong. But just different characteristics of him that I've understood his mercy and grace so much more. Parenting a child with trauma, I get choked up every time. So there's just, it's a new level sometimes, and you don't know what is causing some of the emotional outburst or whatnot. And you may be doing everything right, but it's something that their parent did or something like that. And you don't know that what you're doing is spurring that on. But I've just so more understood his mercy and his grace and his desire for us to have a relationship, and to, just like we need him so much, we need each other. And so to build this up. And so when we're showing that people are building relationship, that is who he created us to be. And so to desire relationship with him too, that all of it just keeps playing together, and teaching your children. I think that was such a part of what our children were learning, as we've been in the church all our lives too, and kids grew up in the church, but we really felt like we were supposed to be getting more outside the church. And so we were really starting to, the kids were a little bit older, and we're like, what are things we can be doing? And so that's in, I think 1 Timothy 6, that it says, telling your children, command them to do good deeds and I'm not going to quote it right, but basically to serve others, to do good and to do good works. And that is part of what we want to show our children. And so I love that people can do Love Box groups or mentoring as a family and really teach the children how to do good works and do the deeds of the Father and help the fatherless and some could be widow. There's some moms, and a lot of times the kinship families. So grandma and or grandpa, they weren't going to ever foster, but something happens to one of their children. And so they take their kids in. And what if this grandma is a widow, so then you're helping the widow. Like it just, you never know what piece of that. And if we're just open hearts to serve Jesus as he brings things into our life, we are hitting those commands that he calls us to serve one another, love him and love others. So that's been for me, is just really teaching kids and understanding the characteristics of God and his mercy.
I did some pre-research, so I cheated a little bit,
Okay.
but kind of pulled up. But that kind of reminds me of James 1:27, which I think, depending on your translation, will say orphans or widows, or not orphans or fatherless. But it says, I'm sure you're familiar, pure and undefiled religion before God the Father is this: to look after orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself unstained from the world.
Right.
And I think that's just a very emblematic of what you said. But Tiffany, how have you seen and known and learned about God throughout this?
Yeah. I don't know if I had like any expectations going into it, but what has stood out to me is just seeing and like knowing God's like deep love and compassion that he has for us. And in all the different kinds of relationships, like seeing the parents interacting with foster kiddo and their own kids, and seeing like their own kids interacting, and seeing, I think it's just so cool, like looking, like even just going over there and seeing how they all interact. And I can really like see God's like love and compassion in that relationship. And then in turn, like the cool relationship that we've had like with our like love box group, and how, because we were kind of all paired up and we didn't really know each other. So like there's like so that relationship. Thanks, Jen, for pairing us up. But so she kind of like paired us all up. And then that cool relationship, like how we've grown closer, and then with our family too. So it's just cool to see, like, again, that relationship and knowing his like provision and deep love and compassion, even when it's not been very easy, like for our family, knowing that like he's always been near, and he's always like shown that provision in that way of deep love and compassion. So I think that's the biggest thing that sticks out to me, and what I've learned more about God, and in that way that he cares for us, like we should care for the fatherless and widows.
Yeah. I think second piece would be also just his mighty hand. This is so bigger than me. And knowing if I was supposed to start Salem Angels, and just taking one step in front of the other, and as he would make a way, like I just knew I was to do this step and this step. And if we hadn't said yes to back here to fostering and then adopting him, we wouldn't be with Salem Angels. You know, our little boy changed our life of what God was calling us to. And it wasn't stopping at Dre. It was going to provide for many more families through Salem Angels. And so he's provided physically with volunteers and the people that we need. He's provided financially to run a nonprofit. You have to do your fundraising and all of that. And every single little piece, when I would start to question or something wouldn't be going quite right, he'd be like, really? Look what I just did here. And so that's always, watching for his hand has really been awesome too. And the bigger picture is the foster system. That is way bigger than any of us. And he can make these changes. He can do anything. And so I love that piece too, that I've learned that he's like, I'm ahead of you, I'm behind you, I'm beside you, and I'm with all these families that I'm going to call into providing for as well. And so you just keep following, I'll keep providing. And so it just feels very good to be a follower of his, to know that if he calls you to it, he will provide as well.
And I think this is all just a wonderful portrait of God. You know, not only his mighty work and his love. You know, Scripture talks about God adopting us as his children.
Exactly.
And it's like, God's doing some fostering, but I know this is like encouraging to me as well. My family fostered and then eventually adopted my sister. Okay. And we were in a small town when we started. We didn't have an Angels program or anything like that. But I hear like the work that you all are doing with just like an intentional community that's there to support them, but also there to like really understand that like this is a fostering relationship and it's going to be different than what we expect and what we're used to. Or like a mentor program would have been like so great for my sister just to have an adult who is intentionally investing in her and all that. Like that warms my heart because that's a lot. That would have been so awesome for like my family and my sister had to have gone through, but also I can imagine all these other families who like my parents were blessed with maybe not an intentional fostering community, but a pretty solid community at their church when they moved to Olympia and stuff. And I think that's just, at least from my like out somewhat inside, somewhat outside perspective, the ministry and work that you all are doing is so helpful and so wonderful. And I itself have fostered and kind of know like that this is a needed and wonderful thing to support our community here in Salem.
Right.
And speaking of supporting our community, we do a lot of Morning Star, Salem Angels, tag teaming stuff. What does some of that look like? I see your logo around, but what does that partnership really look like?
Just in
like what areas are we partnering? Like when I guess we do things with y'all for like Christmas and lights, stuff like that.
Yeah. There's been different things starting from the get-go of just knowing that Jen and I think it was Katrina were sitting in our very first gathering at this one location, and they were like, "This is the how," and so that was just so. That just touched my heart, and so then as we kept talking, and then when they were planning the lights, and so we are the amazing beneficiary of that night is amazing, and so as everybody drives through, and if they want to give a donation, they can give to Salem Angels, and then the giving tree. They did that last year as well, last year and this year. And those have been gifts for those that are on our waiting list. For whatever reason, we haven't been able to make a match.
Oh, I didn't know
and
that.
So all of those gifts are being given to families on our wait list. And so that's super special. Yeah. And so we always try to meet the needs of those families that are waiting. We just want to be able to say to them, we know you're there. We're working on it and we see you. And so we've been, group of nurses did Halloween in October and called them boo boxes. And then November, another group did some gift cards, and another local organization also gave to that. And then for Christmas, they did the gift tags. Trying to think. I think that's, and then just prayer.
The family night out.
Oh yes, sorry. Yes, parent night out. That's been huge, just to provide this amazing building. And so we gather all of our families. Everyone's invited. Not everybody can always come, but parents get to drop the kids off, and they get to go have 3 hours on their own. Some would be a date night. The single parents are probably going home and hanging out with a quiet house.
Yeah.
And so that's been absolutely amazing to provide the location for that. Because you need kind of a big facility to bring in all the kids. And like the rooms are just already set up because it's going to be from babies up to olders. And so all the Sunday school rooms are already set up with toys and whatnot, and we put things back how they're supposed to be, and but it's just already there. And then we plan different activities, but especially for the littles, that things are just already in set up rooms. We don't have to, so it just makes it so nice to kind of plug and play. So,
what's kind of cool about that is that many you family might have actually already been helping indirectly with Salem Angels by like helping to set up the lights or helping with parents' night out. Like this is a ministry that I at least have sneakily helped and not really been aware of. So that is really cool to see and hear, and kind of, when you're out there setting up lights, you're like, oh, this is fun, but kind of hearing like the downstream impact of what that's able to support is encouraging to me. And I hope it's encouraging to you all listening.
Right. And just providing that volunteer piece. So many people want to volunteer. They're looking for things to be involved in and get out in the community. And so Morning Star is providing that for people. Say, come volunteer at the parent night out or whatever.
Or if you want to be in a love box group. Sounds like there's families that are on the waiting list.
There are.
If anyone's interested. There we go.
Good plug.
Yeah.
So just to be clear to everyone, you all are actively looking for more people for Love Box, more mentors, more everything, basically.
Yes.
Okay.
I think we have 5 families on our wait list right now. And so we're just always recruiting. So yes, please come, not even just this time of year. I think people, especially around now, like, yes, there's things that we're doing to provide for our families, but man, to have the heart to serve all year round and give all year round, that's what our programs are doing, is just stepping in and giving of your time, talent, treasure all year round. And that, we happen to do it in December too, and maybe even to a greater degree. But how awesome to have the heart to do it all year round and keep giving. So yes, we'd love more volunteers to come alongside.
And I know like life groups are kind of already set up to be a larger group.
That's true.
That might be a good opportunity if people are looking to serve in your life group.
For sure. And if anybody would ever want me to come share at their group,
or like on a podcast, maybe,
or even a podcast that like exponentially reaches everyone. That's right. But even if you want to get it smaller, you can do that too.
That's awesome. So if someone wanted to reach out because they want to like volunteer or they want to know more, what's the best way to connect to you guys?
Website. Yep. SalemAngels.org.
SalemAngels.org.
Yep. Along the top are all the tabs, and it says programs. And you'd start hitting that, and it's
awesome.
Drop downs. Or find Tiffany.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's actually a good segue. Like, where are you? What are y'all around Morning Star? Where are you around Morning Star? Like, what services normally? Do you do anything else? Tiffany?
Well, I do like the Welcome Center often, like second and fourth, I think, Sunday. And I'm at 11 a.m. service. So I'm the booth right there when you walk in. So you can find me there oftentimes or in the lobby somewhere.
Yep. Yeah. I have been in the kids' church upstairs. I'm once a month. I believe it ends up usually being about the third or fourth Sunday, but it's not been super. I do it once a month. I just have not gotten consistent on when I do it, but it typically is like the third or fourth. So you could always find me upstairs or just around, but typically 11 o'clock service as well.
Awesome. Well, family, I hope that you listening or watching found something in this that maybe taught you more about the character of God and how he loves us and is adopting us, and how you can be his hands and feet in the community here in Salem by investing in the foster care community through one of a myriad of ways. And I want to thank you all once again for Salem Angels, for volunteering with it, for working with it, and just the huge impact that will have not just in our community now, but over the many years to come, and just for really supporting the families and children who really need you guys. So thank you both. Thank you so much, family, for listening. Have a Merry Christmas if you're watching this when it releases. It should be just before Christmas. So have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And again, thank you so much for those of you that have helped with any of the Salem Angels programs. And we will see you on our next episode. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Morning Star podcast. Join us again next time as we display God's handiwork and encourage you to live a Jesus-first life.